How's it going, Ram fans? And welcome to your CTV Sports Day 3 recap of the Mountain West Men's Basketball Championships. My name is Ethan Bird.
And I'm Rachel Hallam.
And the first game of the day yesterday was San Diego State against Nevada. And it was a shootout. San Diego State took this one 77-70 to win their 13th game in a row and also go to their 13th Mountain West Championship in program history. Couple of 13s going on there. If you believe in astrology or mumbo jumbo like that, that might scare you if you're an Aztecs fan, but based on yesterday's performance, they seem ready.
Got to think about Vegas too. I mean, gambling,
Yep.
You never know. 13 might not be their number this year, but yeah, definitely diving into the aspect of you talking about it. It was definitely a shootout. I mean, both these teams showing up on offense all around. Obviously, Nevada had 3 players hit double digits. Sherfield, Cambridge, and Washington all in that range. I mean, the closest to them after was Foster with only 4 points, and he was fouled out, which is really interesting to see. But you got to look at San Diego State. I mean, they only won by 7, but it sure did not look like that when we were watching this game. Mitchell had 24 points and 8 rebounds. He finally had a game that he was proud of, and he could actually show why he is the Mountain West Player of the Year.
Yep.
But look at Shackle. I mean, he had 15 points, not the best of the team during that game, but he also hit his 1,000th career point in that game with his first field goal. And, I mean, he was just all around doing well on defense as well for the for the Aztecs.
More often than not, he was the answer for when Sherfield would hit another 3. I mean, they were going back and forth. Sherfield would hit a 3, and then Shackle or Mitchell would hit a 3, and it was like nobody would stop hitting 3s. But I want to talk about Polium for a second. Because yesterday, I called him the weakest link in the Aztecs starting 5. And maybe you heard me, doubt it, but he's kind of showing that he belongs there. 13 points. That doesn't seem like a lot, but it's his second double-digit game in a row. And he has 4 of his last 7 games have been double-digit games. But here's the kicker. Out of his 51 previous games, he's only had 3. So Polium could actually end up being the X factor, that little scoring bump that San Diego State could use in their upcoming championship matchup with Utah State.
Absolutely. I mean, they have at least 6 players on this team that could be X factors. Obviously, Mitchell and Shackle are 2 of the big names for this team. But I mean, Polium, Butler, and Gomez. Gomez has had a great couple of games this week, and I mean, he's definitely been shown out. Obviously, this last game he only had 9 points, which isn't as big as a lot of the other players were having, but it was still effective and definitely meaningful for this Aztecs team.
But that's the difference. You said it yourself. Nevada's big 3 obviously scored a lot, but everybody else on the team was absent, even in the starting 5.
Exactly.
It wasn't even an absent bench. It was an absent 2 players that you had who started. And that's what put the Aztecs over the top, was help from their guys that aren't their stars and also their bench. Now, let's move on to the late game. CSU was the Rams were supposed to play at 9 o'clock, Nevada time, but that got pushed back. And then, it's just a late game. Props to everybody in Fort Collins who stayed up and watched the Rams. We were exhausted. It was a long night, kind of why we're doing this today. Anyway, a very disappointing loss for the Rams. Utah State took it 62-50. It was just deflating.
Yeah, it was honestly, deflating is a great way to put it. It was very, it was heart-wrenching, first of all, but it was also very hard to watch this whole game and not bite your nails the entire time or have your heart racing or your shaking the whole time. But, I mean, shooting 25% from the field and 16 from behind the arc, that was just sad all around for CSU.
It's unacceptable for the best shooting team in the Mountain West to be held to 25.4%. Yes, we're going to get to Utah State here for a second, but I want to clear something up. You can say this was the Keita factor. There is probably a good amount of this in the Keita factor. Keita is one of the best rim protectors and rim dominators in the nation. He's going to go to the NBA to be that guy. But the Rams can shoot better than that. The Rams, maybe that takes you down to, 35-40% for the Rams. Because the Rams can shoot, but they just didn't.
No.
Not at all.
No.
And it was, I mean, the body language was poor.
Oh, the body language was horrible. Seeing them walk out onto the court, they just looked defeated the second they started that game. And I mean, I get when you're down in a big game like this, it can be defeating. But you got to have that mentality that you want to push through this and that you can possibly do it. Because CSU could not easily, but they could have taken down this team and gotten to the championship. I mean, the way they played in their first round in the quarterfinals should have transferred over to the semifinals, but they almost acted like they had never been here before, and they should have acted as if they had been here before and they could do this themselves. But that does not transfer onto the court.
And that's exactly what I was thinking when Utah State opened it up 8-0. And it was the first half was fun to watch. Once CSU got into it, they got into a groove. You put Roddy down low in the post, and it opens it up for the more athletic and agile guys like Tanjay, Bird, Moore, and Stevens to kind of find a way to score. And that's what the Rams were doing for a second, but it just fell apart. So I think the Rams have a lot to learn. They're a young team. They'll be back next year.
Yeah.
And they had never been there before, and they acted like it. But next year, they will have been there before, and I think they'll be ready to play. Again, it's a young team, and we have to remember that.
Yeah.
But the future is bright. Last night just kind of sucked.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, we do have to talk about Keita because he absolutely had one of his career nights. I mean, he was doing fantastic.
Yeah.
He was one block away from a triple-double last night. I mean, he had 18 points, 14 rebounds, and 9 blocks. This kid was all across the board incredible last night.
Neemias Queta is, I mean, it was like watching a lot of the guys last year who are now in the NBA, now in the Mountain West. The Mountain West is becoming a pipeline for, second-round guys to be in the NBA. And Neemias Queta has such a bright future ahead of him. And if he should most likely declare for the draft this year, which will make a lot of Ram fans and a lot of people in the Mountain West happy. But it was like watching a masterclass for a center last night.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand how CSU kept driving under the basket against him and expect anything less. Especially in that second half, he was blocking everything that CSU put up in front of him. So you couldn't stop him at all last night.
And then there was, his supporting class, Justin Bean, 13 points, 11 rebounds with his own double-double. And that's what this Utah State team does.
Yeah.
They out-rebound you until you feel like you can never rebound again.
Yeah. Yeah, those rebounds that was rough for the Rams. They were getting out-rebounded the entire time, and it obviously made a difference because they couldn't keep possession of the ball.
And that's what's going to transfer into the championship game today. Third year in a row, we've got Aztecs, Aggies. Aggies have taken it the past 2 years, and they're looking to take it 3 years in a row. I mean, we can deep dive into this, but that's what we're going to do at the Thomas and Mack Center today. It's coverage starting around 2 o'clock Nevada time, so 3 o'clock for y'all back in Fort Collins. My name is Ethan Bird.
And I'm Rachel Hallam.
Thank you for joining us.